Public transportation systems around the world tend to have a combination of sounds that make up its own unique sonic identity. And if you've ever been to London,
mind the gap between the train and the platform.
This is Edgware Road.
Or New York City,
Clear of the closing doors, please.
you might be familiar with these sounds. But while these sounds might be unique, they're not exactly pleasant. And that's why in Japan, they take a different approach to shaping the public transport's sonic identity by using short, crafted musical ideas. This practice dates back to 1951, when Bungo Taketa Station in the west of Japan started to play the song Kojo no Tsuki on a phonograph to mark train departures. The composer of the piece, Rentaro Taki, was born in Taketa, so authorities presumably came up with the idea in order to add a little local flavor, as well as express their pride in him being from the region. The song itself was actually covered in a jazz arrangement by Thelonious Monk, under the name Japanese Folk Song. A second departure melody, which are called Hasha melody in Japanese, popped up a couple of decades later on the Keihan Electric Railway at Yodoyabashi Station, inspired by a naval bugle call. Up until this point, stations tended to use loud bells to announce train departures. But these were unpopular with travelers, who found them to be too loud and harsh, diminishing the experience of using public transport, and also got complaints from people living close to stations for the same reason. So after Japan's railways were privatized at the end of the 1980s, JR East, the company that serves the east of Japan, including Tokyo, worked with instrument manufacturer Yamaha to compose departure melodies for Japan's busiest two stations, Shinjuku and Shibuya. They proved to be a hit and were hailed for reducing noise pollution, as well as making it easy to identify which train on which platform was leaving and how long you had left to board the train, therefore reducing the need for passengers to rush in the train station. And things really accelerated in the 1990s when departure melodies started to be used in stations all across Japan, with hundreds of melodies in use today. And while the early melodies were primarily to help train station chaos, as I mentioned, they started to be used for other purposes in the 2000s. By far the most common purpose is to highlight something of significance that is local to the area where the station is located. These are called local departure melodies. So similar to the way composer Rentaro Taki was honored back in 1951 in the first ever train departure melody, a local departure melody might be using a famous song from an artist born in that region, like the song Sukiyaki being played at Keikyu Kawasaki Station in honor of Kawasaki-born crooner Kyu Sakamoto. But it's not just limited to honoring people. Komagome Station in Tokyo, in an area known as the birthplace of a particular variety of cherry blossom trees, uses the song Sakura Sakura, a traditional Japanese folk song depicting the spring, which is typically when these trees bloom. And Fukaya City, known for cultivating large spring onions, uses a tune translated as the Onion March. Another low-hanging fruit is songs that mention places directly in their lyrics, like legendary pop singer Yumi Matsutoya's song Ame no Station, which translates to Rainy Station, and whose narrative takes place in Nishi Tachikawa Station. Sports teams are also highlighted quite often, with stations near football or baseball stadiums featuring a team chant. Inspiration sometimes also comes from the fictional world, and a good example of this is the melody of Takadano Baba Station, taken from the anime series Astro Boy, which references the area in the series and whose production company is based there in real life.
Soaring high in the skies, he may be small but only in size. Astro Boy, he is brave and gentle and wise.
There have also been several instances of melodies from Western classical music, as well as tunes made as ads promoting drinks like Coca-Cola, whiskey, and beer. Now, while all of these categories cover a significant number of stations, there are also a ton of original melodies that have been crafted specifically to be used as train departure melodies. Minoru Mukaya is one of the most prolific composers of these original melodies, having composed hundreds of them for over 100 stations. He got his start as keyboardist for jazz fusion band Cassiopeia in the 70s, and then later founded the company Ongakukan, which spoke to Mukaya's other passion, trains, releasing a popular series of train simulator games and even building real-life simulators for crew training. So composing train departure melodies really is the perfect coming together of his two passions, and makes him a good person to look at when trying to figure out what makes a good train departure melody. Tokyo Metro trains apparently spend an average of 7 seconds on the platform with the doors open, which is really not very long at all. So the first practical characteristic is that the melodies need to be efficient and instantly recognizable. Although on regular trains across the country, melodies can be up to 30 seconds long and have more room to develop. When composing the melodies, Mukaya makes sure not to forget the main overarching reason that they started to be preferred over bells at most stations.
聞きやすい音がもちろん大事ですね。発車メロディーでなんか気持ち悪いってなったら元も子もないので、あまりキンキンすると今度耳がガンガンになっちゃうので。
Before starting on a new melody for a station, he does some deep research on the railway company and the region to ensure the melody will represent their characteristics accurately.
私の発車メロディーには結構そのイメージっていうのがですね、いろいろその路線や、そしてその、鉄道会社やなんかのコーポレートカラーとかその地域の状況とかっていうのを勘案しながらですね、音楽を作って、保安装置なんだけど心地よく、そして、機能も果たしてるっていうものを、目標に作ってるんですね。昔の東京のエリアもあるんですね。下町と呼ばれるところ、そこは下町っぽく少しこの和楽器を入れてって、で次今度学生街みたいなとこ行ったとこはそのヤングジェネレーションの方にちょっと音楽的な思考を向けてと。
But not only does he take into account railway branding and regional characteristics, he'll even travel to the train station itself to see if there are any extra bits of inspiration he can squeeze out from the way that the station is structured.
ほとんど大体乗ったと思います。ここの駅だったら例えばこういう風に電車が入ってくるなとか、そのカープとかも大体覚えてるんで、こう入ってくる電車にはこういう音楽だろうみたいな感じで作ってますね。
One of the melodies he's created was even based on the uphill journey it has to take to the next station. But thinking about it further, there must be some other musical and sonic constraints due to the nature of where these melodies are played.
これはベリーシークレットフォーミュラですけどね。
For instance, there tends to be a lot of constant low-frequency sounds at train stations, from the sound of passing trains to air conditioning. The speakers used to play these sounds might also not be that large and capable of producing bassy frequencies anyway. So in order to make their melodies cut through, composers have to rely on brighter sounds in higher registers, like percussive synths and bells, while still avoiding it being too grating. Though, as Mukaya said in that earlier clip, he might also include more traditional instruments for more traditional areas. Another consideration is how complex the melody and underlying harmony of the piece is. You can't be doing virtuosic solos over harmonically complex and dissonant chords when people are just trying to get to work. Here's another famous and prolific composer of departure melodies, Hiroshi Shiozuka, talking about how he approaches composing departure melodies.
駅のメロディーが流れてるところって確かに雑踏もあるし、電車の通過音もあるしね、 だけどそこの中で皆さんにちゃんと聴いてもらう、そして皆さんの印象に残る音楽、起承転結を描く形で終わる10秒ぐらいの音楽を作って皆さんの度肝を抜いてやろうと、そういう気持ちで作ってました。
And he also touches on the concept of a climax, which is an important one. Since these melodies ultimately tell the user when the boarding is ending, it's crucial that they convey a sense of finality, so that even someone who isn't intimately familiar with the melody can tell when it's about to end. For that reason, these melodies can employ tricks like using ascending or descending sequences to mimic motion, and using perfect cadences to signal that the piece is complete. Some can even make the use of a changing tempo, for instance, slowing down towards the end of a piece to really drive the point home. Fukaya has done so many of them that he even started to get more ambitious. On several lines where he composed all the melodies, he has made it so that each station's melody follows on from the previous one, so that if you travel along the whole line, you can listen to a larger, more complete composition, like on the Tokyo Metro's Tozai line. Now, we've been focusing so far on the departure melodies, but there is actually a concept of an approach melody as well, for when the train is arriving. These tend to draw from the same inspiration well as the departure melodies, and still serve the purpose of allowing passengers to identify which train is approaching, but these are less time critical, and therefore they're often longer. With so many melodies deployed across Japan, it's also no surprise that this has attracted a group of superfans called Ototetsu, who avidly keep track of new or changing melodies, and share recordings with each other online. There have also been official CD releases of collections of departure melodies, cementing their place as works of art rather than just a functional sound. And with the high degree of care poured into each original melody in order to capture the local flavor, as well as the frequency with which they're heard by locals, they've become audio postcards, tiny cultural ambassadors that turn each station into a sonic landmark. So presumably, as these melodies get phased out and replaced, as they are being in certain places, they will also become sources of nostalgia for people, just like visiting an old neighborhood or your childhood home. If you enjoyed this video, there are more videos over here for you to check out. If you'd like to support the channel, you can do so on Patreon or buy me a coffee, or you can come join our Discord community. The links are in the description. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time on Mix Signals. Bye bye.